All right. Hi. Good morning or good afternoon. This is Sherman Crancer, Partner Channel Development Manager for the Western United States. I want to say thank you so much for joining us today. I know that we have a bit of a different format today. We're using Skype broadcast today because of the large demand of people and partners wanting to attend this. Moving forward, we are going to be able to have instant messaging using our Yammer group for that. So we've kind of changed the format with these partner or project lead gen calls, where what we want to do now is still focus on project lead gen, but also help our partners understand partner profitability, understand how to transform their business by utilizing a lot of the different products that are coming out. I recently just attended the WPC, Worldwide Partner Conference, last week in Toronto, and I think a lot of partners that were there also probably feel the same way I do, is that there's so much information and we're almost innovating faster than even the employees can understand. So what we're going to do to kind of help get through that and all that information is really dive deep into each particular cloud product so that our partners have a better understanding of how to possibly increase their sales, increase their margins, and properly market the products. Lastly, what we're going to do is we're also going to talk about psychology of sales at the end of every one of these calls. I've been in the industry for many years, and we have to understand who we are. And I understand that I'm not a very technical person, but I'm really good at sales and marketing, and I hope to be able to help our partners understand this and kind of move forward. All right, so this is the first one. We're going to talk about Azure, and the agenda for today is pretty simple. So we're getting into partner profitability. We're going to be talking about transforming the data center. Really what that means is really talking about Azure first, and kind of the best way to understand how to sell this thing called Azure. We're going to talk about the customers and what they could possibly be wanting with their Azure needs. We're going to be talking about the customer market opportunity so that our partners really understand what is the opportunity behind this. And then we'll go into the partner opportunity. How do you make money? Is there a big need for these individual different components of Azure? Lastly, we're going to go into, if you're a project-based partner or a managed partner or a packaged IP partner, what are the different margins by doing that, and really what is the opportunity? And then lastly, we're going to go into project lead gen, and that's really the sales tactics, right? The sales tactics that are aligned to how to increase your sales. All right, so let's get into the first slide that we have here, and that's really transforming the data center with Microsoft Azure. So we're going to kind of this is a real busy slide here, and we're actually going to break each one of these components down. So the first one is customer needs. How does that really relate? Next one is the market opportunity for that, the partner opportunity. And then we're going to go into exactly what is Win the Cloud Platform. A lot of partners, and myself included, when I first saw that, was like, well, what does Win the Cloud Platform actually mean? And we'll talk about that. And then, as you see down here, is extending the data center. And then lastly, modernizing the data center. So, moving forward, let's get right into really the customer needs and the requests. So what are the customers wanting? That's the first thing you have to understand, is what is a potential customer right now that has a business that, what are they looking for? And that's really the first thing, is they want to be able to deliver their applications to their employees and really, control the networks easily and efficiently. Second, they're really interested in securing, their sensitive data. And how does that really apply? I think the way to look at it is, let's take a look at a a customer who is currently, has a server on premise, right? And, they're sitting there and they may have 20 users and they may have several servers. They might have an Active Directory server, an Exchange server. They might have all these different, network components there. But really, Skype for broadcast, or excuse me, not Skype for broadcast, but the reality is, delivering the applications to their employees is really important, and understanding how to do that within their environment is really important. But let's understand the security aspect of their server, and let's also understand what is the cost to actually maintain a server or deploy a server. So this is kind of understanding where they're coming from. The reality is that if you had a $10,000 server, and let's look at a 5-year cost ratio for that server, the $10,000 server, then you have to add your software to it, right? Then you're going to have the installation and the maintenance to that. But then over the next 5 years, you depreciate the software, the actual components of that server. And if you're looking at a 5-year cost for a $10,000 server, it's about $25,000, and that's the real cost that's available for that. And security being a real big component of that, a lot of clients will kind of sit there and say, oh, well, I don't trust the cloud, or it's secure. But I would say that if you're understanding the customer's needs or understanding of their own technology, I think the way to come back to them is to say, well, how secure is your server room? Where is your server room, right? Who has access to it? And if you were to actually transform this and actually, push this to the cloud, you might be able to have access to, components that are not going to depreciate or go down, but also a very highly secure environment. So they're really looking for security, and I think that you can provide that within an Azure type of environment. The next thing is with cybersecurity that we're seeing quite a bit of different things in the news, right? With the Anthem and the Target, and I think they will really want to understand how they can identify and detect the different threats, before they become an issue. That's really, really important. And lastly, with HIPAA. And the different types of compliance and regulations, it's really important that the customer, to the customer, that they are compliant with all of these different factors. And I think those are the customer needs and requests, and understanding those and where they're coming from is really going to help you be able to position, the actual opportunity here. So if we move forward into, the market opportunity, this is where it becomes extremely exciting. You have to look at what's going to happen in the next several years. So we forecast, or we've actually, did some surveys, and we see that there's 127 billion IT spend that's going to be happening by 2018, right? So just think about that. But what's really more important is understanding the budget that's being allocated to a hybrid type of situation. And so what I mean by that is a lot of customers want to have their server on premise, but they also want to have, maybe a part of their infrastructure in the cloud being on Azure. And that's really the perfect hybrid, type of scenario. So it's changed dramatically. It's changed dramatically, from, a 38% on cloud, 68% on-prem to right now, the customers out there are starting to understand that, hey, this is a valuable resource to utilize, and we're going to actually start spending some money on it. We also see a 2.3 times revenue increase by expanding to the hybrid cloud, and what we mean by that is the revenue increase for the partners. That's it's amazing because of all the new things that you can actually provide. And lastly is we understand that 72% of all the different customers are leveraging cloud for their current applications right now, from pilots to production apps. It's absolutely exploding right now, and I think understanding how to position it and the market opportunity is really just unbelievable. So let's move over into the partner opportunity. Okay. So where's a partner? You're a partner and you're thinking, okay, what do I do? right? How do I maximize on this, and what do I provide, to the different customers out there? So the first thing is really providing end-to-end customer solutions, consistent platform access. So, and really, what does that mean? That means having a hybrid type of solution where their current server with our Active Directory or whatever programs are running on that is actually put into the cloud as well. So it's end-to-end solutions. It's both in the on-premise and on in the cloud, but it's solutions that are consistent, right? We also allow, I think the partner opportunity is providing the customer with access to their network environment, from anywhere in the world, right? In the past, you had a situation where you'd have a server and you'd have to, VPN into the actual server that was on premise. But you're kind of, you're sitting there and you're held hostage to, the performance of that server and which one actually, which one would be applicable? Excuse me, I got messed up there. But the next thing is really the opportunity for the partner is broad cross-selling opportunities across infrastructure, apps, devices, and cloud services. And what does that mean? Well, Azure has many different components. So we're starting out here with the hybrid solution, right? Infrastructure as a service, but you have platform as a service, software as a service. What if you create your own apps within Azure and you're providing that to a specific client base? Right. So, we see the partner opportunity as being absolutely incredible. And we see the partner opportunity as something that if you take advantage and understand Azure and the different components, which we will be discussing on the next 42 weeks, you'll put yourself in a position where you completely differentiate yourself from other partners. I would also believe that right now, we're seeing a shift in the psychology of the customer. And what I mean by that is you understand that the customer right now is no longer thinking, oh my gosh, nothing is secure in the cloud. I think that Office 365 and some of our other competitors have really put it out there that the cloud is the way to go. It's secure. We have the different data centers. Microsoft has 19 data center regions, which are more than AWS and Google combined. Right. So the customer is understanding this. And with this explosion of all these different apps, oh my gosh, I think the partner opportunity is what we really should understand and grasp and really move forward to. All right. So if we move into this next slide, a lot of times, our partners see these partner profitability scenarios and they're like, win the cloud platform, really, what does that mean? What are we doing? So I think to take a step back and kind of, think about it, I think it's understanding workload, virtualization. You're virtualizing everything, okay? You're actually, having a hybrid type of scenario, right? Where you're actually allowing, the customers to actually take their current programs and take them off the on-premise environment, right? And you're winning it by saying, okay, we are competing with, Azure, or AWS or Google. However, what Microsoft and our Microsoft Azure environment allows you to do is so many more things than just having a cloud platform out there. So let's look at, winning it means, okay, we're trying to get our customers to move from the on-premise to the cloud. That's what winning the cloud platform. And Azure by itself is absolutely second to none. Leader in all 4 major quadrants. No other company has it out there. So you got to think about this. Okay, hybrid and cloud management. Okay, so now the new opportunity for our partners is to migrate, but now you're monitoring and you're making sure that the workloads are actually working better. So it's not just the on-premise type of environment scenario as a partner. You're looking at how do you can manage that. Next thing is that application monitoring. It all depends on how they're actually provisioning this different types of services. But you can actually provide the application management for them. Let's say they wanted to go into like a platform as a service, right? Actually have something that people are accessing, and as a partner, you can win this by suggesting them bringing their current environment into the cloud. Lastly, think about automation, or not lastly, application workflow and automation. So, and this is like utilizing a scenario where we bring in SharePoint, right? And actually watching how the business workflows actually work, but using that and applying that to the Azure environment, and bringing it back to your client and saying, hey, this is what we can do. These are all the new and latest and greatest things, and theoretically, it might save you money, but more importantly, it's going to bring you a lot better customer productivity. And lastly, you're not going to lose on the system and services and IT management. You're still going to have to be there, because in a hybrid environment, you still have the on-premise scenario. But if you look at the hybrid environment, now you're helping the customer. You're helping get it you're helping the customer reduce overall costs, and maybe helping them win against their own rivals per se. All right, so that's really what winning the cloud platform is. Now let's move into extending the data center. Now, okay, what does that mean, right? So what it means is that you're delivering with the infrastructure as a service possibility. You're delivering high availability solutions, and with those solutions comes SLAs, right? Service level agreements, right? And disaster recovery and cloud backup. One of the things that might be a really good thing to understand is disaster recovery, and understanding how a customer views their current server, and maybe helping educate the customer on their current server environment, right? A lot of times customers will say, gosh, we are secure, we're fine, we're no problem, we've got everything buttoned up, we've got tape backups, we've got everything that we need to make sure that we're up and running all the time. And the simple question really is to say, hey, what happens in a natural disaster, right? What is your security protocols? How do you get in? And oh, by the way, where are your servers? Can you show them to me? Because a lot of times you find out that a lot of these servers are in a closet or in a small room that doesn't really have high security. So, is your customer really in the right place? Is their current IT manager really securing their environment, right? But if you extend it and use a hybrid cloud scenario, one of the things that you can help pitch to the clients is that, hey, in the event that we have Hurricane Sandy, or we have a different natural disaster, or a fire in your office, or a theft, we can make sure that you're up and running, because we actually have it in the cloud already. So that's really what high availability solutions and enabling new and different things. One of the things to also understand here is giving the customers very highly scalable solutions. And what does that mean, really? And that means, in the event that a customer has the use of a high number of server farms to calculate different types of data, they can spin up as many virtual machines as they want instantly, as opposed to having a current environment and actually buying the infrastructure, right? So we already talked about the $10,000 cost of a server, and over 5 years how much that would cost. But what happens in a situation where a company is much larger, right? What happens if they have 300-400 employees, and what if they have several platforms that they're running on? They're in a situation where they have server farms, and what is the cost to maintain those? And I think what Azure brings, and the partner profitability scenario, is really helping your customer, be able to scale up and down, right? Let's go ahead and put 25 to 30 or 40 different virtual machines in the session. And then when we're done, with our workload, let's go ahead and scale them back down. But also, cloud storage. right? And I think a lot of clients currently use OneDrive or Dropbox, and that's really on the low end. But what about, media? What about, the different types of media that are being used right now? I can tell you one thing that, MP4s by themselves are huge files, right? If you want to do some high resolution things, and I think that's a new medium for a lot of businesses that are out there. But it's having highly scalable cloud storage that is our environment that's secure and can be accessed anywhere. I think is a really a good point to always keep in mind when you're talking about how you're going to extend the data center and using a hybrid cloud environment. One of the things that we've had in the past that was probably a challenge for a lot of different cloud infrastructure as a service providers really was the access, right? Access to their server environment, and that was typically reduced to the connection that they actually had from their office to the internet, right? And a lot of times, they would have a DSL connection or an Ethernet connection or a fiber connection. However, they really couldn't, push files back and forth very, very quickly. And I think, for example, like architects, or CAD files, big ones, right? Being able to push them back and forth and be able to access that information was very difficult. But now with ExpressRoute, it's changed quite a bit, and the hybrid cloud environment becomes a really a big reality and a big opportunity for everyone utilizing ExpressRoute, because you can use that to have that high access connection point straight into the data center, so that you can move things back and forth very quickly. And I think that having that, as well as having low latency and SLAs behind it, I think is a very powerful way to help you extend, from the on-premise environment to the cloud environment. And I think we've kind of talked a lot about this, but developing the platform as a service is a little bit different than just your infrastructure as a service. And I think utilizing Azure as a kind of a test environment is a great way, because you can reduce the workload on the current server environment that's located within the infrastructure of your client. But now you can actually work on developing and testing different workloads or applications that those clients could be possibly working on. So that's really what extending the data center really means, right? And let's go ahead and move into what does modernizing the data center actually mean. So with modernizing it, and I think one of the main things is really Azure Active Directory, okay? And it's providing security, identity, two-factor authentication across, different on-premise and the data center in through the cloud. That's Azure Active Directory. You can do the single sign-on, as well as Azure multi-factor authentication. And that's one of the things that we talk about with cybersecurity. And one of the biggest, I think, breakage points with a lot of clients is really coming down to single sign-on, right? Or just very low security type of passwords. And I think the multi-factor authentication is really something that Azure Active Directory can provide, that will really bring a high level of security for your clients. And then modernizing the data center, I think, also talks about infrastructure, modernization, right? And that's talking about, moving into, from Windows Server 2003 to the new one, right? To our latest, Windows Server 2012 R2. Now, I would take that back and go back to, once again, let's reiterate the value and the value of understanding the cost of maintaining a current server environment in anyone's office, right? In anyone's company. And I think you look at that and being able to position this with your client and say, look, you're losing performance on your server as it gets older, right? And things change so quickly. But within using the Azure, data center environment, right? Using Microsoft's data center environment, the infrastructure is on Microsoft to keep up the latest and greatest, and allow them to do that and utilize their environment to make sure that your performance from all of your server environments are literally number one within, and it stays, at actual optimal performance through that. All right, so let's get into transform the data center partner opportunity. Okay, so what we want to do is really, building long-term value added services for, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service. So let's reiterate a couple things. And what we're going to get into here is really talking about a partner who is just project-based services, okay? And there's a lot of money to be made, I think, or a lot of margins to be made if you're going through project-based services. But then we're going to go into, what if you were providing managed services along with that? So that's the second piece. And then we're going to talk a little bit about packaged IP and how that goes. But remember, okay, so the cloud market, by 2020 is going to reach $191 billion being spent on cloud services. So that's a lot of money that's being sent there. And we've moved away from just on-premise servers. More than 65% of enterprise IT organizations will commit to a hybrid environment. Now, that says a lot. That tells us that a lot of the market out there, the public, has made that psychology shift, and they thought, okay, now it really makes sense. Maybe the Express route, or Azure Active Directory, or the different platforms as a service, or different products are actually helping these organizations do that. But look at that, 65% of enterprise IT will have a hybrid environment because they have to have control on both sides. And then the growth of the hybrid environment will reach about $84.67 billion in 2019. So, the insights to maximize, with this profitability is really, and this is really interesting, I think, it's capitalizing on the growing customer awareness, and that's the psychology, right? We've moved away from those days where oh my gosh, nothing's secure. What is this cloud? What are all these questions, right? I think people have shifted. I think the public has shifted. Customers have shifted and allow this to, the whole cloud idea to be an actual, viable solution for that. So there's really the psychology. We also think that to maximize your profitability, partners having a current embedded base of clients right now that have current on-premise server environments, and understanding how to price this out and how to position this is really going to help our partners increase their margins significantly, right? And I would say that bringing the idea of a hybrid solution to your customers actually helps you look like a thought leader, helps you kind of position yourself as a partner who is moving into the future and is not just set on, hey, gosh, I'm going to just kind of stay within this environment. I'm not going to trust the cloud. The cloud is here. It's not going away. Azure is here. And if you bring this to your current client base, now you have a whole new set of potential marginable projects that can be brought to your clients. So it isn't always going to be about, how do we find the next new customer? The opportunity is, okay, let's go back to our existing customer base and say, yeah, how do we, let's talk about Azure. Let's talk about, what we can do, if you're the partner, saying, hey, what we can do to help you become more productive, help you become more secure. Hey, I've got an idea. Can I get 15 minutes of your time? Going back into your customer base, or maybe a lot of clients that you converted to Office 365 that may or may not have had another partner in there, but you can call them back and say, hey, I know that you've understood and you're really excited about Office 365 and you've consumed a lot of this, is great, but can I bring up another solution for you? That's where the partner opportunity is identifying your current customer base and saying, gosh, okay, hey, hello, can I get 15 minutes of your time? And let me tell you about all these things. And then you have to come to this, meeting, one, prepared, and that's why you're here, you're listening to this, but number two, excited about how you're going to help the customer, right? Maybe reduce overall IT expenses, but become more productive, more efficient with what they're doing, right? but also knowing that your solutions that you're providing is not going to take away from, your current or their current IT spend, because there's so many things that now you can provide to, to your customers. So that really kind of comes into, okay, big question mark. You kind of see it on this slide, but if you move to the next one, what I wanted to do is kind of say, okay, let's just break it down, because the mantra that we are talking about is always about, hey, get to packaged IP. And a lot of our partners don't understand what that really means. And to be frank with you, I think a lot of the partner cloud PCDMs, we're kind of like, well, how do we help our partners understand this, right? And so project services, we see a margin of around 35% in project services. So, what could you provide some of your clients that would be like a project, right? That you could, actually set a number of hours and say, okay, this is what the project's going to be. I'm going to do this for you. And that really becomes, we see that you could start with, cloud readiness assessments. What does that mean? Well, I think it's doing a scan of their current environment to see, okay, how old is the data center or their current data center, right? Or their servers? What type of applications are they running? What are their, future plans? Do they look to, become a, technology convert, right? And actually, utilize this to help their companies move forward. But the first one really is a cloud readiness assessment. You can use this to go in there and do a scan and say, hey, we're going to do this for you. It's going to cost X amount of dollars. This is the project, and we're going to give you some ideas. With that first one, now you have, solution analytics. So we can kind of, put together that report, right? And then say, okay, what could be the scope and what could be the design? Putting together the proof of concept by doing a test. And what's the real neat thing about, the Azure environment and the infrastructure as a service, or the hybrid cloud, is that you can just spin up a very small server. You can spin up very small consumption, and you can do a proof of concept to show them, okay, let's do a project on moving some of your applications that are not critical to your current environment up into the cloud. Next, project line services is really, talking about how, possibly thinking about a 5-year plan to move, right? And, putting the kind of an architect, architected design that will help, your clients see the future. And I think a lot of partners that are really effective are doing that. They're putting it in front of their clients and saying, hey, I understand that you have this environment right here, but, let's see how, we can move away from that in the next 5 years and take advantage of what's going on. Next, for the project line service is really the data center migration, opportunity that you have, because you're going to have to shift it all, and that's a possibility for you, as well as training. And I think training, a lot of our partners are forgetting about training. Training your clients does two things. One, you can get a great small little project, 3-4 hours, 10 hours, 20 hours. However, what the training also does is it empowers yourself to become the thought leader and really the partner who is providing not just, hey, managed services, or this is a project where I'll do this, but a partner that's going to help them understand the latest and greatest parts of technology, right? That's what's so important, is doing that. I think that's where we at in the MCC environment is we're out there talking to our customers about the latest and greatest technologies out there, but we're also educating them and putting ourselves in a position where we understand technology, and we are a thought leader, within the industry. So if we move on to the next one is really, managed services, right? So managed services, I think a lot of the partners, we understand what managed services is, and we're attaching a monthly fee to monitor, so what we see as a potential way that you can put like packages together is putting things like your, critical response support. So what happens with that, right? And that could be a tier 1 environment, that could be a tier 1 environment where you're managing, but you could also, monitor the data, center performance and optimization. And that centers around helping your clients maybe utilize Azure as a platform as a service. So, you can do that on a monthly basis. You can also, use virtual database administration. So there's another kind of thing that we can, attach in there on a monthly basis. PowerShell script automation, data center performance monitoring. These are all different types of things that a partner can actually, bill on a monthly basis, right? And kind of do a management type of scenario. And then lastly, I think is really important is the Azure consumption. This is actually something that our partners can utilize as a way to increase their margins, is by helping their customer understand, how much Azure do they really need? Understand, what their customer's environment, what their workloads are going to be. Are they cyclical? Is it a standardized workload that they have throughout the year? Are they in a situation where it's seasonal? Right? But you're the partner who is monitoring that to ensure that they have enough virtual machines ready. They have enough of the infrastructure as a service, or excuse me, they have everything, ready and available for that. So that's really, what the managed services component. Now, I want you to look at two things here, and one is really the margin. Okay, 45%. As you can see, that's different than within project services, where you're just saying, okay, we're going to migrate, we're not going to manage, we're just going to do some of these projects. We have a difference in margin, and that's a 10% increase. And we're looking at the average revenue, and that's suspect depending on what type of customer you work with. But really, the managed services piece is as you can see, is a combination of project and monitoring, on a monthly basis. So let's move this into what we think is really the really powerful thing, and that's really packaged IP. Okay, so we can start off with understanding the different margins, and I think a lot of partners want to say, well, how can I do this where I can really scale this and make the biggest margin possible? And that's really about packaging an IP solution for your clients. And that's, we see the margins at a 65% or margin level with packaging your IP. And okay, now let's take a step back and say, okay, once again, what is packaged IP? What does that mean? Well, that's really just understanding Azure and the Azure environment, and then coming with a solution that you provide your customers that will include project-based, managed services, and some things that you've actually configured or done yourself that only you know how to do. Okay, that's really what it is. Or creating a SharePoint site, right? That's going to help with their business flows and business processes and project flows. But you can talk about, or you can add things such as automated consumption monitoring and reporting, right? This is something that you can actually already be doing probably, or want to configure within your own current environment and how you're managing the different client servers. But you can actually put that together for a specific client and package that in. Utilizing a scenario where you have a software and IP that can automate the data migration and integration is another thing that could be a very powerful packaged IP solution for your clients. And what does that mean? So I guess another way to describe it is, maybe a client needs to ensure that because of their seasonal needs of different types of virtual machines, that your solution to them will make sure that that data is automatically migrated back and forth, right? And it's automatically integrated into all the different systems or platforms or different programs that you have. So you're really putting it all together. I like the SharePoint-based vertical workflow. SharePoint is a great program that, it's one of those programs where you can learn the basics very easily, but you can just get lost and keep going and keep going. But, creating an IP utilizing SharePoint is probably the path of least resistance, I guess you would say. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be, super hard, but learning SharePoint and learning how to do that I think is going to be really helpful. And then, automated backups, disaster recovery is another way to do your packaged IP. And then, pre-configured dashboards. So when we're talking about that, that's kind of going into, this other program we have is, the Power BI, the power of, business intelligence, right? I would say that, Power BI is one of, this rich visual, a command of the business or the environment. So, creating a Power BI environment and attaching that on top of, putting in monitoring in that and kind of creating something specific for the client, and have that tagged to all the different components in Azure is really creating your own IP. And it's actually something that is relatively simple to do. If I could do it for the client, for some of my partners, I bet you just about anybody else could do it. And I want to be really clear. I've never been the super technical person, but I will tell you that Power BI is so powerful. And with the tools that are included in that, very easy to integrate and put in all the different types of platforms or environments that are in the cloud and put that in there and then provide that. But what we do see is, now get back to the margins, 65%. So if you're thinking to yourself, okay, well, I'm a project-based partner and I'm starting to get into managed services. Okay, great, that's perfect. Now you're seeing the different opportunities. But how about, instead of just doing one or just the other, see about how you can create a solution for your clients using a hybrid environment within Azure, right? And creating a packaged IP solution that might automate, use SharePoint, use Power BI, put it together. Now, if you do that, I think you become extremely important to the organization. I think you also, you get away from price, right? You get away from selling this, as a commodity. You get away from that, because what you're providing the customer is an idea, is a solution to their problems, is a way to be more secure, is a way to be able to help monitor things much easier, maybe to save money, right? To have the best type of performance available, or scalable solutions. You become a very a trusted advisor just because of your knowledge of the latest and greatest technologies. So that's what's really important. So that's really, that's what the partner opportunity is here, within Azure, is really, transform the data center means, hey, client could have a farm, the server farm could have a one server, or could literally have their own miniature data center there, and we're transforming it. We're moving it away from the premise-based solutions to the cloud environment. And I think we've talked a lot about the profitability piece of it, and how you can really earn different types of margins. But I mean, this is all greenfield. This is all new stuff that gives our partners a new opportunity to go back to their current clients and increase their project-based revenue significantly, or increase their managed services-based revenue significantly. So I hope you take that and think, okay, great, I have a better understanding of that. And I think, to wrap it up, it is absolutely huge. It is just exploding, especially with all the different IoT, right? And Azure Active Directory and cloud storage and hybrid. I mean, there's so many different facets of it, and we're going to go into each one of them every Monday on that. All right, so let's kind of change gears a little bit, and this is one of my favorite items to talk about, is really the psychology of sales. Okay, so one of the main things that we've done with Project Lead Gen and Microsoft Community Connections is we've taken the hardest part of seminar and webinar selling and flipped it and put that responsibility on somebody else. Let's go back into selling to many as opposed to selling to one. Now, this is really important. If you're selling to one, and that means one-on-one selling, phone calls, knocking on doors, referral based, that's one-on-one selling, right? It's not a scalable solution, and there's no way to grow fast, that way. And I think what Project Lead Gen and what Microsoft Community Connections allows you to do is really, talk to many people at once. right? And to talk to 20 people at one time that actually want to hear what you say, okay? But and hopefully after you present to them, think of you as a thought leader, right? That's what's really important is becoming that thought leader. So the psychology really plays into this whole idea, because what we want all of the partners to be able to do here on the Microsoft Community Connections Initiative and within Project Lead Gen is do as many events as possible and speak to as many people as possible, so they can bring in as many leads as possible and opportunities. So we took the hardest part, okay, about doing webinar and seminar selling, and we changed it up. And so and how we do that in the psychology of sales is you have to understand when you go into a sales call, right? You go into to meet with a potential client, you have to understand their psychology. You have to understand how are they thinking, right? And you also have to understand the second piece of it is how would another partner who's coming in here bidding on these services be thinking, right? Okay, so one of the main things that through the years of training that I've been through really helped me understand, okay, typically a client, especially if it's a one-on-one sales opportunity where you've contacted them and you're sitting with them, doesn't want to talk to you. They're afraid that you're going to do the hard sale, for whatever you're providing to them. They're afraid that they're going to spend a lot of money, right? And they're afraid to really make any decision that's going to affect them, in a bad scenario. And I think one of the worst ways of providing a sales proposals is to work on price, because what you're doing is you're really only satisfying one of the psychological triggers that they might have, and that's saving money, right? But a lot of times they're just scared. They're scared of what the workload's going to be. They're scared of making a right decision. They're scared of a lot of different things. So you got to understand, what they're doing and how they think. So really, the thought process is, okay, let's work on savings. As a client, I think I'd be interested in saying, well, is there an opportunity for me to improve the performance of my environment? Is there a way that I can possibly do something that's going to help me get in front of my competition? Right? The psychology of the client really comes down to what's in it for me, right? That really is. So if you understand those different scenarios, you can come to the meeting and be in a situation where you can help them ease their triggers and provide a solution for those. So what I'd like to kind of get into is using open-ended scripted questions. And this is really, I think, a lot of sales executives make the mistake of kind of always flying by the seat of their pants. And what I mean by that is kind of just going in there and just saying, okay, what do you want? Oh yeah, I can rip and replace that environment. I can take this and take that out. And yes, I can do that. But they don't have a purpose. They don't have a strategy. Every call is a strategy. You need to have a strategy for everything that you're doing. And you need to have a path of where you're going. And that's where the open-ended scripted questions really come into play. And what you're trying to do here, and the psychology behind this, is trying to elicit those triggers. You're trying to find out where these triggers are so that you can formulate your proposal to be able to provide a solution that's going to make all those triggers go away and actually provide something that they feel that they're going to get a lot of value out of. So, for example, you could say using an open-ended scripted question could be, Mr. Customer, please describe, your current environment and some of your challenges that you have. They can't say yes or no to those, right? Mr. Customer, what are the 3 pain points that you have, within, your organization when it comes to technology, right? Another open-ended script question could be, can you describe how you communicate from your operations to your finance to your sales, open-ended, right? What you end up doing is in psychology, you're trying to get all the information, and a lot of times all you need is 3 or 4 of these open-ended before they really start trusting, the conversation, and they say, okay, great, this is good. This person understands. You want to understand my environment. Where the mistake is, a lot of sales executives or IT professionals will go in and say, do you want to save money? Yes. What do you want to do now? Yes or no questions. And you got to get away from that. But what you're doing is using these open-ended scripted questions. So you come in there with 6 or 7 of them because you want to find out these pain points. Then you list out the pain points that are associated with those questions that have come up, right? And that's when you're coming back with the solutions, but you're coming back with questions that are eliciting a yes. What does that mean, right? Well, I would give you an example of, John, you told me that, your environment is really getting old, right? Yes. So then you also mentioned, John, that your environment could really utilize maybe a different plan to become more optimal and run faster and smoother, correct? Yes. Okay. John, you also mentioned that you would agree that moving into the future is a way to go, and that possibly a hybrid cloud solution would be in your benefit, right? Yes, right? And what you're doing is you're getting the yes questions. You're getting the yes answers. Yes, yes, because what you end up wanting to do is you want the client to see a couple things. And I think the psychology behind it is understanding that they do have these issues, right? And that you've identified those issues and that you're a thought leader within those issues and you can provide a great plan. So when you come back with a proposal, or if you want to do a proposal on there, you can actually literally go through, the 5 or 6 different triggers that they had in your solution that's going to help them out. And you can also say, such things as, John, in your infinite wisdom, you would agree that moving your environment from premise to a partial hybrid environment would be a great idea, right? You may not want to use infinite wisdom, but a little bit of flattery also helps within the sales process. So that's really understanding the psychology of words and using different things to get the client to give you more, so you can provide a good solution. And I think some executives or some people might say, well, that's kind of a weird tactic or how to use it. But the reality is that's how you connect with your clients. That's how you find out about them. You find out, John, can you give me some more information of where you feel your organization is going to be in the next 3 years? Right? What type of technology are you using? Or can you give me more, what are your frustrations with technology today? Right? And utilize those different types of things. And I would say that one of the main things is that I think using scripted open-ended questions that pertain to solutions that you provide would be the best way of doing it. Because if they have a trigger that is already located within your solution set, bingo. Now you have something to provide them. I'm going to leave you with something before we end the call here today. Flipping the script with a plan is differentiating yourself from the other partners that are coming in. Creating IP is going to differentiate yourself from the other partners that are coming in. I'll give you an example. 3 partners come into a 20-person user environment, right, with 2 servers. 3 partners come in because they want to do an IT change. The first 2 partners come in and they say, great, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. What do you want to do? All right, let me take a look at your closet. Let me take a look at your environment. And they come back with a proposal that is based on price. And they typically could say, oh, well, you're not secure here and you're not there. And we're going to take this and we're going to reconfigure everything. And we're going to put you on a managed services platform where everything just stands perfect. Okay, those are the 2 different partner scenarios, right? And I would say that they're probably within 8% of each other when it comes down to the cost or the project cost or the managed services cost. What I'd suggest you do, or the partners to do, is with this creating your own IP solution, is when you come into that same exact meeting, you're the third person coming in, you say, great, thank you for that opportunity. Yeah, we love to bid on your current network infrastructure. However, can I ask a few questions first? And the customer said, well, sure. Well, actually, I don't need some questions from you, but what I'd like to do is see if I could talk to your vice president of sales. Can I talk to your vice president of operations? Can I talk to your vice president of marketing if you have one, as well as your CEO? Because what I want to do is find out, how do you guys collaborate, right? What's in the future? What are in the plans, right? How does marketing talk to sales? How does finance deal with T&E, right? I want to see how they're utilizing technology to help benefit their the company. With that scenario, the IT person or whoever's bringing in is probably going to say, well, yeah, why not? So you go and you talk to all the different clients. By the time you come back, you're thought of as a completely different type of partner who's coming in. Your proposal is going to be based on helping them become more profitable, more efficient, right? As opposed to, oh yeah, we'll just rip and replace. You don't want to be like everyone else, and that's really the mantra that we're trying to help explain to you. And you want to prepare yourself to be the most profitable, most different partner out there, and then put yourself in a position where you're creating clients for life. All right, that's it. Thanks so much for joining today. The link is going to be available for you to download right afterwards. Next week, we're going to talk about Power BI, the power of business intelligence, and we're going to go deep into it. We're going to talk about how to train up, how to get yourself prepared for it. It's going to be fantastic. Once again, hey, thanks so much for joining us today. We really do appreciate it. We look forward to helping you out, and share this. Tell your partners, tell your friends. We're here to help, and I'm here to provide any answers. You can always contact me or you can go get access to the Project Lead Gen call here. If you want to go down to download the actual Project Lead Gen videos that talk a lot about the things we're talking about today, the link is right there, and also the Project Lead Gen Planner. My name is Sherman Crancer. My email is scrancer@microsoft.com. Thanks so much for joining us today. We look forward to helping you out, and have a great day today. Bye-bye.